Docker. So what is a Docker? What we will discuss in this. So Docker, Kubernetes, Jenkins. Docker plus Kubernetes plus Jenkins. So what is Docker? What is the correlation between Docker and Kubernetes? What is the correlation between Jenkins? Or what are the prerequisites to learn this Docker, Kubernetes, Jenkins basics of Linux is enough. What is that? The course content. What we will discuss? We'll discuss Docker, and then we'll discuss the Kubernetes. Then we'll discuss the Artifactory with the Jenkins and GitLab CI/CD, and will show you, and GitHub Actions also will show you. Okay. So yeah, 1 second, we will write it. Docker. So what we will cover in the Docker. Guys, are you able to hear? Control plus. Yeah. What is that? Docker. So what we will cover on this Docker. Okay. What is an application? What is an application? Okay. Second one is application tech stack. What is that? Application tech stack. And third one is application architecture. Architecture and life without Docker. So what is the fifth one? Life with Docker. Life with Docker. And what is Docker? What is Docker? And what is virtualization? What is virtualization? You already know what is virtualization, right? Eighth one. What is what is containerization? What is containerization? And what is the Docker architecture? Docker architecture. Docker architecture. Okay, you understood? So you already know about the what is architecture. So what is application stack, guys? What is application? What is the application? What is a website? Static website, a dynamic website. So what is website? Does anyone knows? So does anyone know what is website? So what is a website or what is application, guys? What is a website or what is application?
Collection of web pages is website.
Yes, very good. What is a website? A collection of web pages. Very good. What is that? Collection of web pages. So what is that? For example, this is a WhatsApp. What is that? WhatsApp. 1 second. Snippet. Snipping to able to see it. So what is the website? For example, this is the website, right? So in the webs, this is the WhatsApp website. What it have? Chat, status, contacts, group. Okay, group. So group chatting, video chatting. So right, all these are the pages. One web page. This is one web page. This is one web page. This is one web page. All these website. All these websites are in the a website. It is integrated with the website. Collection of web pages is nothing but a what is that? Collection of web pages. Collection of web pages. Collection of web pages is nothing but a website. So what is that? Collection of web page. So what is a web page, guys? What is a web page? What is a web page? What is a web page? Guys, so this is the page, right? So who will develop this page? What this is the repository. Which repository this is? This is the GitHub repository. So who are developing this website? So everyone taking one module. Everyone is taking one module and creating that module, creating that pages and push it to the repository. So these all are the developers. These developers are developing the code for every module. So this is the chart module will be developed by the this user. This user is developed the status module. This user is developed the contacts. So this is the chart. So how they can create the chart, guys? How they can create the page collection of programs. What is that? Collection of programs is nothing but collection of programs is nothing but a web page. So what is that? Collection of programs is nothing but a web page. Right? What is a program? What is a program? What is a program, guys? What is a program?
Collection
Collection
of
of
lines.
lines. Collection of lines is nothing but a program. So again, website will be two types of static website and a dynamic website. What is a static website, guys? What is a static website? Collection of pages is nothing but a website or application. Website or application. So there are two types of website: static and dynamic. Static website. What is static website, guys? Static website shows the same content to every user. It is fixed and does not change unless manually updated. Manually updated, right? A web page, static web page shows the same content to every user. Same content to every user. It is fixed. It is fixed and does not change. Does not change unless manually updated. Manually updated. Guys, understood? So, for example, college websites or some university website, they're just showing their college information and everything. They are not updating it. How? So, if you want to update, we need to manually update the changes. So, right. How they are creating the static websites, CSS, HTML, okay, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. They are using JavaScript, just writing the website. So something like if you want to write the personal portfolio, so company landing pages, documentation website, all these are using the static website. So what is a dynamic website? A dynamic web page generates a content. It is real time based on user interaction and or a data. So for example, e-commerce websites, all the websites, guys, e-commerce website, WhatsApp website, Facebook website, these all are the dynamic website. Why? The real time data will be coming. Something like you are uploading the images, videos, writing the content, right? All these are the dynamic. A dynamic page generates content in real time based on the user interaction and interaction or a data. What is that? A dynamic website. Dynamic website needs a database to store the data. What is that? Dynamic website. So what is a dynamic website? A dynamic web page generates the content in the real time. Yeah? A dynamic web pages web page generates web page generates content in real time based on user interaction or a data. Okay. So uses the sum of the backend languages Java, Python, Node.js. Right. So what is that? They're using Python, Java, PHP, Node.js, .NET. Okay. So these all are the languages they use it and store the data connected to the databases. Or how they can connect it to a databases. What are those databases? So what are those Oracle, MySQL, Postgres. Okay. So we have a etc. We have a number of databases to connect it. Okay. Understood. So what are these? What are those e-commerce websites? Amazon. So Amazon e-commerce website, Amazon, Flipkart, all that. Facebook, WhatsApp. Okay. So banking websites. All social media, so LIC, something like hospitals, everything. So that is the dynamic website, static website and dynamic website. So for example, static page is like nothing but a printed book, your book. So are we modifying anything? No, it's just created it, you just read it, right? So dynamic page, something like a mobile app, content changes for every each user. Every user. Understood, right, guys? Yep, nice. We understood what is the difference between. We understood what is the difference between a static website and a dynamic website. Dynamic website. Understood. Yeah. Now we'll discuss about every application contains three layers. What is that? Every every application every application contains three layers. Every application contains three layers. What are those? Front end, back end, database. What is the front end to the back end and the database? I will show you. What is that? Tra.io. So what is that? This is the front end, and you can use the same to back end. Then it will connect to the database. So this will connect to the database. So how many layers we have? A three layers. Okay, so this is getting the data. Same this one also. Okay, so what this is? This is front end. This is front end, and this is back end, and this is database DB database, right? So front end. So what you can use the this is front end, this is back end, and this is database. So this is a front end, back end, and a database. So this is the three-tier architecture. So how many layers? So we have a three layers of. So how many layers? Three layers. One is a front end, back end, and a database. So what we can use for the database? So we can use for the front end Angular. We can use Angular or React.js or React.js, HTML, CSS. We can use. Okay. So next here we can use the backend purpose Java, .NET, Python, Node.js, okay, Node.js and PHP. So we can use all these languages and we can deploy the application. So what are the databases we have? So the databases are, what are the databases? Oracle database, MySQL database, Postgres database, SQL Server, MongoDB, Cassandra, all these are the this is all these are the databases. Okay, so we can use for the front end and we can use for the back end and we can use for the DB. So if you want to use the three-tile layer, so this is the dynamic application. If you use only the front end, so that is nothing but a static website. If you want to use all these three, that is a dynamic website. Dynamic website. So for a user creation, what is that? User creation on Facebook or WhatsApp, right? So what we need to provide first, we need to www.whatsappweb.com. Then you can create your sign up your user account. Then so that username, password, and information will be stored in the database. So again, whenever you log into the website, right, that will get the from backend. It will check it in the database and it will open our website. And it will open our website. Understood? So this is nothing but a three-tier architecture. So three-tier architecture. So what are the environments we need to use for this application? So what are the environments, guys, in real time? So what are the environments we have? Guys, tell me what are the environments? So three application contains three layers. You already understood. So front end, backend database, right? Database. These are the three layers of the application. Application layers, three-tier architecture. Understood? Application, three-tier architecture. So application environments. So what are the application environments are there, guys? Application environments. So how many types of application environments are there? So in real time, our application will be deployed into the multiple times, right? Our application will be deployed into the multiple times. So for example, this is the one application. So I will try to file save. Why scripting is not leaking? Okay. Yeah. For example, I will tell you. So this is the So in real time, our application will be deployed into multiple environments for testing purpose. So dev environment, sit environment, QA environment, UAT environment, pilot environment. Once the testing is completed in all the above environments, then it will be deployed into the production environment. Right, guys? So application environments, dev environments. Speak out, guys. Why in real time? In real time, our application will be deployed into multiple environments. Multiple environments for testing purpose. Testing purpose. So one is, guys speak out. One is dev environment. So dev environment. Who will use this dev environment? Who will use this dev environment? Developer. Developers using this environment. Right. So next is sit env. Testing team or QA team will use it. Testing team, QA. So this is nothing but system integration. Integration is nothing but a QA. What is the third one? Third one is UAT ENVU. UAT ENV is nothing but a client side testing. Client side testing. User acceptance testing. Next one is pre-prod or pre-prod or pilot environment. So this is nothing but testing with the live data. Testing with live data. Okay. So once the testing is completed in all the above environments, once the testing, once the testing completed all the above environments, then it will be deployed into production environment. It's understood. So this is nothing but a production environment. So
What
production means
what is staging?
Yeah, staging is nothing but a integration environment, QA environment.
Okay.
It looks like a QA. Staging is nothing but a QA environment, integration, system integration. System staging is nothing but a system integration testing environment. Okay. So production ENV means live environment. So in our team, we are calling as a dev environment is nothing but a staging, and the sit is nothing but a staging is nothing but a dev also. So we can call staging dev environment or staging environment. Staging is nothing but a so dev environment. Sit or QA is nothing but a QA environment. UAT is nothing but a user acceptance testing. So pre-prod or a pilot is nothing but a testing live data. It's a pre-prod before the prod. Okay. So production environment means live environment, and end user will access the application from the production. So where the people will access, the end users will access application from production ENV. So production, so ENV. So now you understood, right, guys? The application environment, application stack. So what is the stack? The stack will be should be Python. Okay. So this is the application architecture. So what is the application architecture? The application architecture is so this is the front end, back end, DB. This is the application architecture. And so application tech stack is nothing but a Java, .NET, Python, PHP, Angular, JS, React, and Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, SQLDB. This is nothing but a application tech stack. What tech stack you can use it to deploy the application, to develop the application. So this is the application architecture. What is the application architecture? The application architecture is three-tier application. Our application is having front end, back end, and a DB also. So back end, DB also. Understood. So that is nothing but a application stack, tech stack, application, tech stack, and application architecture. So something like this is the architecture. How many environments we have? Three environments. So dev, QA, pre-prod, production, right? Production. Understood? Yeah. So now life without what is that? Now you understood all these, right? In life without Docker. So as of now, how you are deploying your application? You're deploying your application without Docker, right? Right. In the virtualization, we deployed our application in the virtualization. So we need to install all the required softwares in all the environments to run our application. So we need to install the dev, staging, UAT, right? We need to install all the so for example, so this is the, yeah, here we will create. So what is this? This is the environment, development environment, QA environment, and the production environment. So what we are using? We are using app server, front end, back end, and back end. These are the three servers, for example. How many? So this is the three-tier architecture, and we need a three servers, app server, and backend servers, and database servers. These are the three environments. So we need to use the three virtual machines, three physical machines, right? Prod, QA. So dev, QA, prod. So what this is? Dev environment, QA environment, and prod environment. Okay, so we need to install the OS on all these environments, Linux OS, and Linux OS. Here also Linux OS, Linux OS, Linux OS. Here also need to install the Linux OS, and Linux OS. Here also we need to install the database software here, database software here, database software here. We need to install the Java, right? HTML, CSS, Java, HTML, CSS, Apache. You need to install here. You need to install the Tomcat, right? Apache, Tomcat, Oracle. These are the three softwares need to install on three servers. Okay, here also we need to install the three. Okay, here also you need to install the Tomcat, Apache Tomcat, Oracle, Apache Tomcat, Oracle. Right. We need to install all the required softwares in all environments to run our application. We need to make sure we are using the same version of software. Apache same version, Apache same version, Apache same version, Tomcat same version, Oracle same version. We need to install all the required softwares in all the environments to run our application. We need to make sure we are using same version of the software in all machines. Tomcat 9, Tomcat 9, Tomcat 9. Okay, if any software version is not matched, then application execution may fail. So here Tomcat 8 is there. So here Tomcat 9, Tomcat 9 is there. So if any software version is not matched, then application execution is fail. For example, here Tomcat. So 9 is there. Here also Tomcat 9 is there. Okay, here Tomcat 8 is there. So there is a software mismatch. So what it could be? So if any software version is not matched, then application execution may fail. Application execution may. So if you want to run our application in multiple missions, then we have to install required softwares in all those missions, which is a tech task. Which is a hectic task, right, guys? I will show you that. So application stack, HTML, CSS, client-side JavaScript, build tools such as Maven, Gradle, web server such as Apache, server-side runtime and framework including Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby, .NET, Java, database such as MySQL, MariaDB, SQL Server, MongoDB. Other services are caching, messaging queues, Redis, Kafka, Git and GitHub for source code management. These are all the application development stack. Okay, setting up the development stack. This is the setting up the development stack. So issues with the development stack setup. Use the Mac OS, they use Windows. You use Mac, they use Windows. You developed the app using Java 1.8, they have Java 11 installed. You used MongoDB 3.6, they are using 4.2. So what they are saying, for this code is does not work. So well, it worked on my system. There is complaining, it does not. So what is that? So in the virtualization, what is the advantages? So hypervisor, then guest OS, then install the software, then install the application. So multiple OS in the same mission, easy maintenance and recovery, lower cost of ownership. This is the advantages. So what are the disadvantages? Multiple VMs lead to unstable performance. Hypervisors are not as efficient as a host OS, long boot up process. These are the disadvantages. So what is the containerization? So containerization technique is nothing but a, so we can install the OS. On the OS, we need to run the container. We need to run the container service. Then the container service, you need to install the libraries and application. So container and same OS kernel are a lighter and a smaller, better resource utilization and compared to VMs, short boot up process. So what it is that a VM is nothing but a elephant, tortoise, and this integration size, startup, and integration. So the containerization is nothing but a front end, back end, DB, environment libraries, everything will be in the one container. So now working on every systems, mind to mind to mind to. So Docker is a platform, packaging and deploying run our applications. Is now you understood? Life without Docker, what is having? So there is a we need to install all the softwares in all the environments to run our application. We need to make sure we are using same version of the software in all the missions. If any software version is not needed, not matched, then the application execution may fail. application may fail. So life with Docker. What is that? Life with Docker. Docker is a containerization platform. What is a Docker, guys? You just this is the yeah. So this is the virtual machine, and this is also virtual machine, and this is also virtual machine. So this is also virtual machine. 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 So in this virtual machine, you just run the Docker service. Then you run as a container. Docker image as a this image as a container. What this is? This Docker image as a container. What is that? Docker image as a container. So what is Docker image contains? The Docker image contains what this is? Docker image and Docker container. Docker container. So what image contains? Image contain OS, app, and libraries, software. Softwares. So what is this? This image contains the OS, app, and software. No need to install the softwares on each and every environment. So you have already softwares, you have already application, you have already OS. So what you can do, you just use this Docker image and run as a container. What is this? So download the Docker image here and download the Docker image here. Right? Download the Docker image here. Download the Docker image here and download the Docker image here. Right? Download the Docker image here. Download the Docker image here. Download the Docker image here. Okay, every container having every VM having the Docker image. So in this Docker image, what you can do, you can run as a container. Container. What is that? The reusable. What is that? A reusable. Docker is a containerization platform. Docker is used to build and deploy our application into any machine without bothering about the dependencies. So dependencies is nothing but a software. So dependencies means the softwares which are required to run our application. So dependency is nothing but a OS, Angular, React, Java, DB, Tomcat, etc. Docker will reduce the gap between development and deployment. What is that? The Docker will reduce the gap between development and deployment. Development and deployment. Guys, understood? Understood? What is a Docker? Docker is a platform for packaging, deploying, and running application. Docker enables you to separate your application from infrastructure so you can deliver software quickly. Docker packages software into standardized units called as container that have everything the software needs to run, including libraries, system tools, code, and the runtime. By taking advantage of a Docker's, by taking advantage of a Docker's methodologies for shipping, testing, and deploying code quickly, you can significantly reduce the delay between writing the code and running it in the production. Running it in the production. So what is that? Docker file. From the Docker file, you need to build the Docker image. From the Docker image, you run as a Docker container. So this Docker container will run on integration environment, dev environment, QA environment, and production environment. Okay, reusability and no need of software install. You just run as a one container. That container will run on it on dev, QA, and pre-prod. That container will run it on dev, QA, and pre-prod. Understood? Yes, understood. Yes, understood. Okay, what is the Docker terminology? So means, so we can run this Docker on, so Docker container, we can create one Docker image and we can run this Docker image on every environment. So this Docker container, run it on every environment. For example, you can run this Docker. So you have a three Docker images, one for Apache, one for Tomcat, and one for Oracle. So you can use that Docker image. So these are the three Docker images. So one is for app, one is for backend, and one is for database. So all three databases are using same Docker image to deploy your application. This is the reusability. Same your app, same your app, same your app server also, app Docker image also will use the same Docker image on all the environments. So this is also we can use backend. We can create a one Docker image and create. Okay, so we can deploy it. Understood? What is that? So life without Docker. Life without Docker. So there is a dependency. We need to install all the softwares. What is that? Life without Docker. We need to install all the required softwares. We need to install all the required softwares in all the environments. All the environments to run our application. Right? It is the burden of software licensing purchase. Okay, then we need to make sure we are using we need to make sure we are using same versions of software in all the machines. Right. So maybe your development environment is using. So your development is in something like we have a upgradation of software. So here Apache is using 2.6, so Tomcat is using 9. So here also same. So first, so the upgradation and everything will be tested under the non-production environment. So what is the non-production environment? Non-production environment is nothing but a Dev1 QA. So first we need to install all the softwares in the non-production. If they are working, then they will move it to the production. Here we are using the Tomcat 9 and Apache 2.6 or 2.7. But here they are using the old version. So whatever the developer wrote code, right? That code is so they created that code in the section of Tomcat 9 and Apache 2.6. But when we deploy it in the production, it is not working. So why? So there is a difference between the version mismatch on non-production and production. So right, these are the gaps. How we can remove these gaps. So we can use the Docker and remove that gaps. Create a one Docker image with your OS application and software. So then we will keep it in the artifact repository is nothing but an Access or JFrog. Then we can pull from that to even all the environments, dev environments, QA environment, and production environment. So we can use those images and we can deploy easily. It's a reusability component. What is that? Reusable component. So once we create the Docker image, right, it will be applied on the dev environment, QA environment, production environment, pre-production environment. All these environments you need to use that same Docker image to run as a Docker container. To run as a Docker container. So we need to make sure we are using same versions of the softwares in all the missions. If any software version is not matched, if any software version is not matched, if any software version is not matched, then application execution may fail. Right? What is that example? Narayana Narayana installed Java 11 version in dev environment. So Sunil is installed. Sunil installed or Hari installed Java 8 version. Java 8 version in staging or set environment, integration environment. Okay. If we want to run our application in what is that? If we if we want to run our application in multiple missions, then we have to install required softwares in all those missions, which is hectic task. Which is hectic task. If you want to run our application all them in multiple missions, then we have to install the required software in all those missions, which is hectic, right, guys? Which is a hectic point. So right, so WhatsApp application, UI, front end, web components, business component, persistent components, database. So UI connected to the backend, then backend connected to the database. So what are the application? These are the CSS, HTML, Bootstrap, Django JS, jQuery, Java, Spring Boot, Hibernate, MySQL. We can use for this. Right. So DevOps people deploying application in the multiple environments. So what is that dev environments? It UAT, pilot, preport, DevOps guy. So Java 1.8, Spring Boot 8.5, MySQL 8.5 is there. So each environment having a different versions of Java is a problem. So here they are using Java 11, here they are using Java 13, here using Java 1.6. Okay, so there might be a dev environment will be used by the developer stream to perform the integration testing, and set environment will be used by the testing team test the functionality of the application. Event environment will be used by the client to test functionality of the application. Pilot so environment means pre-production testing environments. Prod means live environment. To deploy application these many environments, we need to take of all the softwares required to run our application in all the environments. It is very difficult task. So what is a virtualization? Installing multiple guest operating systems in one host operating system. Hypervisor software will be used to achieve this. We need to install the required softwares in host to run our application. It's a whole technique to run applications. System performance will become slow in this process. To overcome the problem, virtualizations are going for containerization concept. So which concept is? So containerization. So what is a containerization? It is used to package all the softwares and applications code in one container for execution. Container will take care of everything which is required to run our application. So we can run the containers in multiple missions easily. Docker is a containerization software using Docker. So Docker is a containerization software. So Docker is a containerization software. Using Docker, we will create the container for our application. Using Docker, we will create image for our application. Docker image we can share easily to the multiple missions. Using Docker image, we can create a Docker container and we can execute it. So what is that conclusion? Docker is a containerization software. Docker will take care of application and application dependencies for the execution, deployments into environments. Multiple environments will become easy and we use Docker container concept. What is that? Docker container concept. Understood? So life without Docker, this is the problem. What is the life with Docker? So life with Docker. So what is that, guys? Life with Docker. Tell me. There is no dependencies. So Docker is a containerization platform. Yes, understood? What is that? Docker is a containerization platform. Yeah, guys, I will tell you this in simple way. Just this is our Docker image. So this Docker image contains OS and your softwares and application code. Okay, but all these are in below 1 GB, below 1 GB. So you can use this image run as a container. Use this image as a what this is, for example, in our AMI. What is this? AMI is nothing but a Amazon Mission Image. In this Amazon Mission Image having the OS, software and applications also. AHG, right? You are creating a AHG, auto scaling group with AMI. Right. So we can use this AMI as a ASG, auto scaling group. So whenever the application needed, right, it will automatically create another instance. Another instance, same like as this. So your container is your image is AMI is Amazon Mission Image, Docker image. A Docker image contains OS, software, and application code. But this is image having a 20 GB, right? But we don't need this much. We just install the OS kernel and softwares, whatever the softwares we need, we can install and your application code also deployed on this server. Okay, just take this image and run it in as a container in our virtual machine. Container in our virtual machine. Okay, so how many containers we can run in our virtual machine? You can run number of containers on your virtual machines. You can run number of containers on your virtual machine. But if container crashes or container deleted, so there is no capability of a auto healing and auto scaling capability of a Docker container. So why Kubernetes came? How you can manage all these containers? So we can manage these containers through K8s Kubernetes. Why Kubernetes came into the picture? That is the reason. So that containers doesn't have a auto healing and auto scaling capability. So who will achieve this? The Kubernetes software will achieve this. Kubernetes is the container orchestration manager, for example, who will manage all these the containers. The containers will be managed by the Kubernetes. Kubernetes is very simple. Okay. Yeah. So Docker is a containerization platform. Docker is used to what is that? Docker is used to and build and deploy our application into any mission without bothering about dependencies. So it will reduces the software cost. So that MySQL, that Oracle or something like a Oracle, the backend Java, front end, all these licenses will be reduced. If you buy for one, right, it will use for any environment. Any environment. Dependencies means softwares which are required to run our application. What is dependencies? Depend Dependencies means the softwares which are required to run our application. Which are required to run our application. What is dependencies? So dependencies is nothing but dependencies equal to OS, AngularJS means software, React, Java, DB, Tomcat, Apache, etc. All these are dependencies. Docker will reduce the gap between development and deployment. What is that? Docker will reduce the gap between development and deployment. Development and deployment. Yes, understood? So what is a virtualization also done? So what is a Docker also done? What is a Docker? Docker is a containerization platform. Okay. So what is a virtualization also done? What is a containerization also done? Right. Docker architecture. What is that? Docker architecture. So what is the Docker architecture, guys? Docker architecture is very simple, guys. Docker is very simple. Yeah, this is the Docker architecture. What is that? Docker file. From the Docker file, build the Docker image. From the Docker image, they are running the Docker containers. They are running as a Docker containers. Very simple. So Docker file, from the Docker file to we can build the Docker image. So from that Docker image to run as a container. This is the application. So your application OS and the dependency softwares will be deployed on this container. So very simple. Docker is very easy. Easy, 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 easy. Right? Docker is easy. What is that? Docker file, Docker image, Docker container. Easy or not? So Docker is a containerization solution. So what is that? So Docker is a containerization. Docker is a containerization platform. Docker is used to build and deploy application to any machine without bothering about the dependencies. Dependencies means software. Docker will reduce the gap between deployment and the development. Deployment and the development. Guys, understood? So what is a Docker? Docker is a platform for packaging and deploying and running applications. Docker enables you to separate our application from your infrastructure so as you can deliver software quickly. Docker packages software into standardized units called as containers that have everything the software needs to run, including libraries, system tools, code, and runtime. By taking advantage of a Docker's methodologies for shipping, testing, and deploying code quickly, you can significantly reduce the delaying between writing code and running it in the production. Writing code and running it in the production. So this is the Docker architecture. Docker file. From the Docker file to we can build the Docker image. From the Docker image to we can run as a container. I will show you the Docker file, guys. Yeah. So for example, this is the Docker file. So from the CentOS means the CentOS need to install Java and create a directory Tomcat and download the Tomcat software and run Apache Target and OPT Tomcat. So this is the simple dot where your application code, it will be moved to the web apps file. Yes, move, then expose 80, run the Tomcat. Okay, this is the Docker. So from this Docker file to we need to build the Docker image, right? So from the Docker file to, so this is the Docker file. From the Docker file, we need to build the Docker image. So from the Docker image to run the Docker container. I will show you. Yeah. Here you see, so this is the Docker file. From the Docker file, we need to build the Docker image. So from that Docker file too, we need to push this Docker image in the some of the Docker Hub or public repo. Then we can pull it to the, this is the dev, this is the QA, this is the production environment. So from the Docker Hub repository, we need to push the Docker image and run as a container. Is it easy? So one image can deploy on multiple environments. Is that reusable? Reusable, guys? Yes, right? Narayana, understood? James, Dinesh, Sai Krishna, Swaroop.
It's understood. I already created all this Docker Hub
Hmm.
access and all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll show you. We'll show you how you can create the sign up the Docker Hub. The same like as a GitHub repository. How you are creating GitHub repository. Same right. You can create your own GitHub
Yeah,
Docker Hub.
mm,
Then push the Docker images. So if you
yeah,
want, I will show
already
you.
completed one.
Uh-huh.
Already completed this one. I
This one
just
you
shared
already
the link
completed.
to you. Just have a look.
You know now already this one.
Mm, this
Narayana.
one I prepared.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Hmm. Nice, nice. We'll show you. We'll show you tomorrow how you can create the Docker Hub. How you can create the Docker. First, we can we can create the Docker Hub, and we can pull download the some same like as AWS AMI. They already uploaded some AMIs, right? Amazon Mission Images. The same like as a Docker Hub also contains some of the public and Docker images. We can download the Docker images and we can deploy the Docker images. After that, we can create our own Docker image, and we can pull that Docker image to Docker Hub account. Then we can push that to Docker Hub. Then we can pull from Docker Hub to development environment, QA environment, and production environment. Okay. Yep, guys. Thank you. We'll continue from tomorrow.